On to our Power Thinking, Rejuvenating Your Amazing Mind training for Wednesday. It is August 12th, 2026. This is our 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time edition. I'm your moderator, Stanley Green, and really excited to be with you today as we focus, as we do always, in this 30 minutes, this tight 30 minutes, and actually it'll be less. We'll try to get out 5 minutes before so that you could see the demo on LinkedIn and the other platforms on our mobile app. But the goal is to help you build these absolutely critical, essential, necessary skills of resilience so that when tough times hit, we're ready to bounce back. And while I'm excited that you are here, you and I know that there's a whole world out there that can benefit
Yes.
from what we're doing, and they just seem to think that the bumps that they're going through, the setbacks, and it could be problems in relationships, problems at work, just problems that's just the way life goes. And the reality is that while those problems can come up, we can overcome them much faster and move forward. And that's where what we do comes in. And that's why I'm so happy that you invest the time with us or that you're on the app, because if you're on the app, you don't even need to invest the time live. You can watch the replays. You can take advantage of uh, the notifications that we're pushing out to you, the assessment that we have on the app, and even share with other folks. So appreciate you. Today, as we help you retrain your brain, I'm joined by a co-host, longtime Power Thinking Corp member, mobile app user, Bertie Reynolds. And Bertie is with Aflac, but has an interesting background. I'd like for her to talk about her background prior to sales in Aflac, and talk about what she does with Aflac. So, Bertie, thanks for joining us. We know that you have a technical glitch, so if you see a
Yes.
frozen screen, folks, don't worry about it. You will hear Bertie in real time. So, Bertie, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me and good morning, Power Thinking family. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. So, tell everybody about your background, going back before Aflac, and what you do with
Yeah.
Aflac, and your thoughts about this cold calling. But before you get into actual cold calling,
Mhm.
what I want you to share are the benefits from a financial standpoint
Mhm.
of doing what you're doing. And we talked about this four forms of compensation.
Yeah.
The fact that there's no cap. No one's saying, okay, this is all you're going to make in
Yes.
the first year, blah, 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 blah. So talk about, first of all, that interesting background before Aflac.
Yeah, certainly. I before I started Aflac, like everybody else, went to school to get a chemistry. I got a chemistry degree, and I was a chemist for 10 years, coatings and resins, and loved what I did. Absolutely loved it. Transitioned out of that to start a family, and stayed at home for 13 years to with my children. And as a stay-at-home mom, I did that for 13 years, and I have five young men to show for it, and they are
Beautiful.
all ages 30 through 36, and they're all doing wonderfully. But I loved being a stay-at-home mom. And we had our children in private schools. So then my husband was the one carrying the burden of five children in private school. So when the twins, which was our last, went to kindergarten, I started back to work. And at that point, I had been out of the workforce for 13 years. And everybody said, "You're never going to get a job doing what you were doing before." And I said, "Yep, I will. And the day that the children go back to school, that will be the first day that I start working." And ended up at the University of Pittsburgh doing academic research. And it was such an interesting experience because they quickly wanted me. I started part time because I wanted to continue with the family, but they wanted me to do it part time, and they needed me to get a designated degree in order to do it. And so they went to the provost to say, "I need her to do this work so I could pay her this extra money as well as give her the title." So I ended up getting an honorary degree to do this work. And then I did that for 13 years. It was wonderful. It was curriculum development with low or high risk students in science. And so I kind of parlayed my science background to teach teachers how to teach science more authentically in the classroom using design based learning. And I did that for 13 years. We had a $35 million grant. I lost my funding. We lost funding. And at that time, I was like, I had been doing some work with a group in Haiti, and they were right at the precipice of launching a technical school. And so I moved to Haiti after we lost our funding, and I stayed there for 6 months to help launch a technical school. And it was probably the most fulfilling, most rewarding work that I've ever done. I
Hmm.
absolutely loved it. Came back and I didn't have a job, and I had gone through a divorce and was like, okay, what am I going to do? And to be frank, I had $600 in my checking account. So I thought I wanted to do real estate. And when I went to talk to the real estate people, I needed more money than I had in my checking account to take the coursework. So I was like, well, can't do that. But I kept getting these hits from like Caldwell Banker and Aflac. And I thought these people didn't look at my resume because I don't have any sales background. I was like, so they absolutely are not looking at my resume. But at the time, I thought, you know what? No worries. I'm going to take the interview because it had been 25 years since I had been on an interview. So I thought, I don't want to, who wants to work for Aflac? This is like creepy sales. It's about like being like a sleazy car salesperson. I'm going to
Wow.
take the interview just so that I can practice my interview skills. But I tell you, Stan, there were five things I knew I wanted in my next, whatever my next career was going to be. It had to be entrepreneurial. There had to be no income limits. There was no cap on my, my income. I knew that I wanted residual income. I never wanted to work another day where if I stopped working, the money stopped flowing. I
Mm.
wanted to help people, and I wanted control of my time. I wanted freedom of my time. And I did not know what that career was, but I knew those five markers. And I thought, you know what? When I find those five things, I'm going to jump in with both feet. And so I have to be very honest, I was so cocky in this interview because I didn't want this job. And as the young woman who was like 30 something years, young woman, was going through Aflac, here I am, a 50 something year old woman, thinking to myself, what can this 35-year-old woman tell me? And as she's giving the job opportunity, she's
Mhm.
marking off every one of my five markers. And at the end of the interview, literally all five of my markers that I said I would want it to do, I they were there. And I thought to myself, Bertie, you said when you find it, you were going to jump in with both feet. And I remember walking out of that interview saying to myself, I'm going to do this, but I'm not going to tell my family because my family is going to think I'm crazy. So I didn't. I jumped in with both feet for a month. I didn't have a car, so I had to borrow my children's car that their grandfather had given them. And for 1 month, I jumped in with both feet. I had to work a second job in
Mm.
the evening to make sure that I could pay my bills because this was a 100% commission job, which everybody thought I was
Yeah.
absolutely out of my mind to do.
Mm.
But I did, and every day I went to work, and in the weekends and evenings I went back to Pitt and worked, and it was, I will say I've loved every job I've ever done, but this one has been the most fulfilling. Well,
Mm.
beyond my since other than my Haiti work, but this one is, it gives me everything that I want. In my other jobs, I didn't have those things that I knew I wanted in a career. I just wanted to work, right? I got a chemistry degree, let me be a chemist. I can use that in research. But this was something where I had actually defined what that role would look like. And to actually find something that did that was amazing. And I've been doing that for 10 years now. I just, in July, passed my 10-year mark. So
Wow.
it's pretty
Congratulations.
amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. So that means that your commissions are vested,
That is
or your
absolutely
renewals.
correct. Yes. And that was one of the goals when I first started. I thought, oh, this is going to be a 2 to 5 year thing. I'm not going to do this very long. And
Hmm.
then COVID came. And
Hmm.
then, so I was closer to 10 years than I was to five. And so I thought, let's just ride this out because you're 100% right. At 5 years, your commissions are 75%, your renewals you get are 75% vested. But at 10 years, it's 100% of the work that you've done. And that's a monthly statement that is substantial month after month after month without doing quote unquote the work for that. I always say that it's funny. My first year doing Aflac, I thought I was underpaid. But every year after that, I feel like I'm making more money than I work. And so it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So you have commissions, and
Mhm.
you get paid 2 days after you make a sale.
Yes.
It's direct deposited. You have another component, which is bonuses
Hmm.
and trips. You
Yes.
have the renewals, right?
Yes.
Which is like usually the first Friday of the month. The
Hmm.
money generated, commissions generated from renewals, as long as people are paying,
Yes.
you're getting that direct deposited. And then
Yes.
you're getting Aflac stock. Every
Yes.
time you make a sale, a portion of the commission is dedicated to purchasing Aflac stock. So it's
Correct.
just really interesting. But how were you able? And we're going to go to Leslie Flowers, who was on the line in a minute. Anyone
Hmm.
else? Hit that *6. Let's deal with cold calling.
Hmm.
It's commission only, and you
Hmm.
have to do something that you probably never done before. And you had this perception of salespeople, sleazy, and now
Yes.
you're that salesperson,
Yes.
and the only way you're going to survive is that you're making all these calls,
Yeah.
and most of them you're getting rejected.
No, it's exactly right.
So how did that go?
Yeah, it's 100%. Um I remember given this that we were given the statistic that for every two people that you reach out to in your center of influence, you'll schedule one appointment. If you don't use your center of influence, it could be 20 people that you have to reach out to schedule one appointment. And so that means 20 no's before you hear a yes. And so you get this bombarding of no's, no, no. And it creates it. You have to be resilient to kind of really keep going beyond those no's, because if you don't, what I kept telling myself is, Bertie, this is the opportunity you said you wanted. It has
Mhm.
everything that you want, and there was a future gain that I saw when I thought through with the residuals, the unlimited income, the everything that I said I wanted. So I said, if you want this, it's what you want. You just have to get through this. And so it was just a matter of, there were days I was like, gee, many crickets, I'm not making anything. So, like I said, luckily I had the second job to do it to make sure I could cover my expenses. But it gets daunting at time because it can be so overwhelming hearing no so much.
Mm.
But to, kind of, I would get in my car and I had a list, and I was like, I can't come home until I get through this list. And so I would turn my music on and I would bop around in the car singing, and I would just do it, and you get to the point where the excitement of it was knowing that I had to get through those no's to get to the yes. And so I was like, oh my gosh, it wasn't a mindset of thinking like, I'm gonna get another no. It was like, oh man, I got another no because I'm getting closer to my yes.
Right.
And as I realized that, and year after year after year, saw just how we call it the Aflac dream, but people think, wow, as a chemist, I made great money at the time. I loved what I did. As a researcher, I loved what I did. I was impacting people. I love what I did. But in this career, I literally tripled my income, and
Mm.
that was just by virtue of doing a researcher. But I tripled it. I changed my lifestyle. I was on trips, in places I've never been before, and so it's a lifestyle changing moment. And as you start to experience that, you want more, quite frankly. And so you recognize that those no's are getting you closer to even a different, a more of your Aflac dream.
Fantastic. Let's do this. I'm going to acknowledge a few people in the comments section and bring their comments up. We saw Leslie, hello, Power. Thank you, friends and family from North Carolina, USA, and she's going to come up on the phone lines as well. There's Ema Kumison from the UK. Hello, Brother Stanley, and she also says hello, Sister Birdie. She's a brand
Hello.
new Power Thinking mobile app user out of the UK. You'll be hearing from her in a few weeks.
Wonderful.
And we also have Leslie Flowers saying this is fascinating. Fascinating. So let's go to the phone lines. We have Leslie and Carla and Caroline. So let's go right to them. And first, Leslie Flowers, thanks for joining us. I mentioned where you're joining us from, North Carolina. Your thoughts about cold calling. Welcome.
Thank you, Stanley. Bertie, love your story, and
Thank
I
you.
couldn't help but thinking as I was listening that there was a common denominator between yourself and people who do extraordinary things. Stanley being one of them,
Thank
for
you.
sure. Your story is extraordinary because what it took for you to do that was a compelling focus and desire. You had a reason that to stick with it. You found the four things. And you promised yourself that when you found the four things, that you would choose that option. That's exactly what you did. And it provided you with everything that you wanted. Now, most people don't know what they want.
Yeah.
But if you look at someone such as Michael Phelps, right? Well, even let's go to cold calling. But you had to be persistent. You had to have had a fire and a commitment
Yeah.
to your word, right? And this brings up values and character. Not everybody has that, but it does provide some insight into one thing I think that's really important is that you've got to be driven. So in that video, I love that movie. In that clip, he was driven.
Yes.
It didn't matter what, right? I'm not sure it mattered. We know what it was, his child and food, and oh my God, it was a wild.
Yes.
But it was a fire that burned inside of him. And I've had that experience myself too. So I think that you're sharing this, Bertie, can have us all get in touch with when we've done something similar, when we were driven, is it to get a new car or to go to college or to get a degree. The difference is that you had the longevity. You saw it all the way through. And that's one of the hidden secrets of achievement, right? And to live the life you want is to be so driven to do that one thing with very good reasons. And most of all, to outwit fear when it shows up, because I'm sure you had moments when you had to have a second job. We all go through this. There's certainly a certain fear of poverty that we all experience when we become entrepreneurs. So
That's right.
I just really, I'm inspired by Bertie, and thanks for letting me share, Stanley. I appreciate you, and I'll check out now.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Leslie.
Leslie does these events on Mondays, 11 a.m. Mind Over Matters, all about the mind. And then Fridays, and I'm a sponsor of Mind Over Matters on Mondays, and Fridays, Think and Grow Rich. She had been certified in that and does a wonderful job with that. And so you can kind of get a sense for where, those comments come from. This is what she teaches.
Yes.
And let's just keep moving. We have next, we'll go to Carla Hill. Carla, mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about cold calling. You've done it. So love to hear your thoughts.
Hey, no, great. I'm calling from Atlantic City today with my family. And Bertie, excellent share. It was like a master class in a few minutes in career empowerment and having that and that clarity. And just as a former HR executive, my career planning professional, that's what I see. Most people don't know what they want, right? And just a lot of time is spent really assessing that, and you knew your gifts and your talents, and and designing it that way. And in terms of the resilience that it takes, now, yes, I love the video because Will Smith's one of my favorites. His son is in there. I love biography. All the boxes, but I also love winning, right?
Yes.
And just people overcoming things. And that's why I love being part of the power thinking community and the emotional regulation that it takes to go after what you want.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what you really demonstrated, throughout. And I love the real stories, whether it's, Chris Gardner. Will Smith played Chris Gardner, and Dean Witter,
Mhm.
and Jordan Belfort talking about the straight line persuasion. But to me, in human research, we call it transferable skills. It's not really just about the cold calling. I see people in terms of work, since I work in the world of work, people skip over a lot of things that they should be doing, the value added. But what I picked up in the video was, he's like, okay, I have a limited time. I'm going after the people that are going to make quick decisions. He went right to that CEO as opposed to, going over everything else. I saw time management and prioritizing all the skill sets that we are looking at mastering or becoming a practitioner here. So again, thank you for your vision, Stanley, and your story, Birdie. Excellent story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I really appreciate it. Have a good time in Atlantic City with your family, and thank you for taking the time out to join us. And we'll go next to Caroline. Caroline Zorro, thank you for joining us. Mention where you're joining us from and your thoughts about cold calling. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Stanley. Good morning, Power Thinking family. Great to be here. And Birdie, what a great story. I have to say, this is right on point for me because I recently changed careers and pivoted, shall I say, from being a clinical researcher and operations person for many years into sales. So my life revolved around cold calling. And so this was like so appropriate for me when I said, oh my God, what's Stanley talking about today? I have to get in the office earlier today. I have to get on the phone. It's like all of it is like bing, bing, bing going off in my mind. It's so wonderful to hear all of you speak. I will say that I am driven, but I feel like I have to be more driven. This is new for me. I will say I'm with a group of people who, my colleagues, have been doing sales for a long time. Me, again, 7 months, brand new at it. But the business development piece of it, which is why I like I said, I switched careers, is because I like talking to people. I like building those relationships. So I thought this is the perfect pivot for me when other things aren't looking as good in my former career. But I picked up a lot of things, what you said, Birdie, and certainly the rest of the speakers. You do have to be driven, and I'm learning new techniques. I'm always learning from other people. I'm continuing to connect with my team. But it's not, Birdie, you said, 10 calls to get a yes, or 20 calls. In my industry, I'm going after biotech clients. So it's not just, anybody, hey, if you need someone to run your forklift, it's different. It's a very specific niche. And I think, at 100 no's to get a one, all the calls I make, the emails I send, I get very little yeses or, yeah, sure, come on in. Or, a CEO invited me to come in a couple weeks ago, and I said, great, I can be there on Friday. Does 11 work? And then no response. So, my manager says, typical, just keep at it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep at it. But thank you so much. This has been so enlightening for me to hear this particular topic that I deal with every single day on a daily basis. And I just feel like I'm going to continue my drive, and, I get excited about it. But, I'm a newbie. I'm a definite newbie, and I have a lot to learn. But really, thank you so much for sharing. I feel like you put a light under my butt today, and then another fire under me. So, just keep it going. Just keep it going. And that's what you have to do. I just have to keep it going, and hopefully I'll crack something soon. I mean, I did have a couple clients that were thrown to me, which I so appreciate. So, but, doing it like, cold and going into it and getting that on my own, that has not happened yet. But I am not giving up. I'm in this for the long haul, and I'm in it for the win. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll wrap up. And Greg, I see you there, Greg Jones, and Greg's in sales. Unfortunately, we're going to have to cut off early because we have an 8 o'clock that's already scheduled to come on. So Birdie, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Think about what we do with power thinking. Emotion regulation, very important with cold calling, right? Because you're going to be anxious, going to take those deep breaths, regulate those emotions. Avoiding thinking traps is a skill that helps us with those emotions, because we have to recognize and be aware when we're beating ourselves up too much, when we're jumping to conclusions about, what may happen next on the next call, when we overgeneralize and say, well, I haven't, done well in the past 10 calls, that it won't happen for me. We minimize the positives where we may get someone that responds positively, say, call me back next week. And we magnify the negative. Somebody cursed me out and hung up.
Mhm.
And that's emotional reasoning. I
Yes.
feel anxious, so therefore this may not be the right thing for me. So close out, Birdie, and mention how people, Ema from the UK, and I'll put that comment up. She wants to know how we can reach out to you,
Okay.
what's your LinkedIn, and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Stan, those are all. I think that's one of the reasons that I gravitate so to power thinking, is because it does equip you. You can know your products, you can know, what you do, but the those kinds of things matter. So first of all, believing that you can succeed, is
Mm.
huge. And if you don't have that self-efficacy, it's going to because that's the thing that wakes you up in the morning when you don't want to get up and hear more no's, right? Is just the belief that, you know what, I am going to get a yes today and that I can succeed. The overgeneralization, I see it day in and day out with my team. I'm going to get rid of this lead after 3 tries because they don't like me or they don't want to do this. And so people can start on a high at the beginning, being excited, and then you can see them deflate at the end of the day. So you do have to control your emotions in this, and you have to talk to yourself in those moments when you're in the car going to the next one, right? Because otherwise, you will become deflated and you will become to the point where you feel like this just isn't for me. And you'll miss an opportunity that could change your life. And so it's these skills of being able to get in your head and recognize when the answer, automatic negative thoughts are running through your head. It's one thing to have a skill to deal with that. It's another thing to let that just overrun you. So I'm thankful for power thinking because I've been able to leverage the skills to help me become more resilient on a day-to-day basis because
Wonderful.
you need that.
And how do we get in touch with you on LinkedIn and otherwise?
Yeah, you know what? That's a good question. I have to find out what my handle is on LinkedIn, but I
Okay.
will send it
I
to
think
you and then
It's Birdie Reynolds.
yes.
So Ema, look her up. Everyone look her up on LinkedIn, Birdie Reynolds. If you need
And it's
numbers, just reach
yeah.
out to me and I'll get you some other information, email, and so forth and so on. So
And
Birdie, thank you
tell
so
Sister
much,
Emma
everyone. Thank you.
yeah.
Really appreciate it. Birdie, hang in there. We're going to end the stream so that the other stream can go. And
Okay.
we'll still have our folks on the phone line. So why don't we do